Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the 188th edition of Cinema Effect. I'm Zach, and I'm joined by my fellow Hans Zimmer appreciator, Jaden.
Howdy.
You actually sort of did a little look there.
Yeah, I thought I'd address you directly. Yeah.
Wow, okay. And we've got PTA's number one fanboy, a.k.a. John Cena, a.k.a. Fitzy, a.k.a. Liam.
Yo, hello. How are we?
You can tell that Liam was outvoted in the decision to start using camera.
What do you mean? I said yes. I put my my stamp on the Constitution in the test.
Yeah, you did. You did, but no one's going to believe that based on that intro. But yeah,
I actually introduced the idea to the conversation, so yeah,
you did. You did.
And then you backtracked quite a bit by the end of the conversation on that day.
I didn't backtrack. I'm just I'm nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I'm nervous.
I'm nervous too. I really am. I'm not gonna lie. There's I've got no reason to be nervous at all. But
yeah, you have experience.
It kind of is a little bit. There's no logic, but it's just like it's different, Yeah.
I had a dream that I was like presenting today in class, and I had to give out waters to everyone who was like presenting before me. And it was like a performance. Everyone was doing different performances. So
you had to give out waters.
Yeah, It was a dream. It was,
That's an oddly specific. Yeah. That's weird. Yeah. Well, if your subconscious had that dream, then that's scary stuff. I'm not a fan of that. That reminds me of primary school days where you have to give a PowerPoint or some shit. It's like, God damn, dude, that shit sucked. I'm glad those days are over, except they're not. We're inflicting them upon ourselves now.
You never have to present at work?
No, not really. I have meetings. I don't present per se. It's a bit different. But yeah, no, that's true. I'm sure, Jane, you'll be presenting in your field in the future.
Yeah, I think that's the only reason I'm comfortable with the idea now instead of fucking 4 years ago when we started, is that I'm a bit used to getting up and talking my shit.
Well, you do it probably the most of... You would do it the most of all of us, right? You do all those presentations.
I don't know.
I've only done like group presentations and that kind of thing. So
yeah,
bits and bobs.
Yeah. You're very experienced.
Yeah, still dog shit though.
Well, I can't attest to that.
I'll invite you to my next one.
Yeah, please do. Yeah. I do believe you that you would be terrible at it though.
Cheers.
That was a bit blunt, sorry. Anyway, do you reckon everyone's going to think, wow, these guys have done almost 200 episodes and they finally realise that there's a record video button?
We can run with that narrative instead of us being scared.
That's on it. Yeah, which one's better? We're stupid or we're scared? Anyway, let's get into business. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Cinema Effect, the podcast where we review and talk about a different movie every single Monday. And this week, that movie is The Creator, which opened in the US on September 29th, 2023. It's directed by Gareth Edwards. It is an action sci-fi film. And the synopsis says, against the backdrop of a war between humans and robots with artificial intelligence, a former soldier finds the secret weapon, a robot in the form of a young child. Indeed. Okay, so I've seen this movie. Liam and Jaden have not seen this film prior to now. The power of Disney Plus lets us do that. So Jaden's really upset, but anyway, whatever. I do want to start actually with Liam and get your thoughts after your first viewing of Gareth Edwards's I hate that. The Creator.
I had an okay time. It was really promising at first, like the kind of aesthetic and the visual effects, which I'm sure I'll get to later, were awesome. But the kind of it set a very atmospheric tone at first, and I think I was kind of waiting for like another gear to kick in. That never quite did. It kind of always left me on this kind of surface level. But so I was my interest kind of teetered out as it went along, and it kind of felt like a bit of a jumble of AI concepts, and it didn't feel like it had an overall thesis, I guess, was my main issue with it.
Okay.
It felt like there would be at first when Alison Janney's character was kind of talking about, Neanderthals, and it felt like there would be like a recurring conversation or a kind of angle, but it never felt like it got to that point. So it felt a bit, generic or whatever for me because it never kicked into that extra gear. But I did enjoy the experience overall. I think it's an amazing looking film. Just like that first explosion, even though it reminded me of T2, that first LA explosion was like amazing. And just every visual effect after that and how it's integrated into the environment really well is just pretty incredible. So yeah, I like the movie for that. But yeah, that's my thoughts.
Gotcha. That's so funny because what you just described as your trajectory with your first viewing was very similar to my first viewing. That's just so funny to me. And now, like, I strongly disagree with something you said. So, but I didn't at first. So, we'll get into all that. But I think this is a really, really cool movie. I was super interested in seeing it in the first place because the poster looked phenomenal. I love Rogue One. I love John David Washington. I love original sci-fi. It's like checking all these boxes. So I was in, but I didn't know anything about it going in. I hadn't seen the trailer. I didn't know the synopsis or anything. So my first viewing was interesting, sort of like Fitzy's, because I got the visual feast. I got in spades for sure. The story lacked for me in places for sure as well. Partly because mainly honestly because I wasn't really expecting a child escort mission plot. Which I think underwhelmed me a bit when I realized that's what it was doing. When Alfie gets introduced, I'm like, oh, I see what this is now, and I sort of had no idea. But also because of some other story and pacing criticisms I still have after this second viewing as well. But I definitely liked it more this time, and I wanted to rewatch it because I thought I would, so I'm glad I did. And there's, I don't know, there's so much interesting stuff, in my opinion, that this movie touches on and executes well that stuck with me this time as well. So I did. It's definitely a step up in this viewing. But Jaden, your first viewing, where are you going to take us?
I think I'm pretty on par with both of you. Like, I think it's a phenomenally realized world. But yeah, it is like very trope filled, and like a lot of it is a lot of the dilemmas are a bit too in your face on the nose type of presented. I guess I don't know. I think that the entire time with the film, I was kind of thinking that it would also like kind of develop into something greater, and like I think some of the emotional moments kind of build to that for me, but then I think a lot of the film also does just kind of remain on that lower tier.
Okay. That sounds similar to what Fitzy described.
Mm.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. That's really interesting then, because it does feel like then you guys are like sort of right where I was at first viewing. So that's so
We're just
funny.
not evolved like you yet.
Yeah, it's evolution. Yeah, exactly. Okay, one thing I want to dive right into this. One thing that you said, Fitzy, that I strongly disagree with is that this film has no thesis. I feel like this movie is kind of nothing but its thesis, to be honest. And that is the fact that it is by far the most pro AI thing I've ever seen. In that its thesis is AI is the future, AI is evolution, and AI should be free. And everything AI, sentient forms of life that deserve rights, or everything that you can sort of correlate with that particular viewpoint, So that was my absolute number one takeaway, and I think that you see that basically all over the film in so many different places. But it's just it's such an interesting stance for it to take, because in a way I kind of feel like it's ahead of its time. In a way, I kind of feel like if you were to fast forward, I'm really curious to see how this film is received in different periods of time in the future. If you fast forward 20 years, I wouldn't be surprised at all if this film ends up being seen like Blade Runner, where it sort of didn't do much at the box office, but then sort of has this cult following of people that love it. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, potentially. And then I also wouldn't be surprised if you fast forward another 100 years, say, and people look back at this film and go, how did this film predict like basically an entire social revolution and like nail it and nail the outcome? Like that's just my personal opinion. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I think it's highly likely, and I think that's just a really interesting possibility that this film is touching on subjects that I think are far ahead of its time and have the strong possibility, in my opinion, of being appreciated much more in the future. But I also think a huge part of that and what the film tries to do is reliant on, how much you sort of empathize with the AI and our own personal perspectives at this time. That's sort of what I mean when it's like, how will people see it in the future? Because right now, I think a lot of people are not necessarily closed-minded, but it's a lot harder to see. I think the story of this film is quite reliant on a very, very open-minded perspective that a lot of audiences just aren't there yet with, Yes, please. I was just about to throw it over to you guys. I need some.
Oh no,
thoughts
I
on
was just
that.
saying that I'm that closed-minded audience.
Right. Okay. So did you struggle to empathize with the AI at times, or was it?
It's not that I struggle
Yeah.
to empathize with them because like the film imbues them with empathy, so I can empathize with the character they create, but I don't like the way that it postulates its thesis in saying that AI is good because I disagree with that.
Okay.
I absolutely don't think you should ever get to that stage of development where they can think and are human-esque. I think robots that we have at the moment are fucking fine. And I think this idea that we need an AI revolution, and like I just don't understand where that could possibly lead us to anything. Like the film actually puts it in a very good position where it shows that humans and AI have in this great companionship. But like the way that the current world is trending is, and it's like capitalist tendencies, is that the AI, like I think the far more likely outcome in our world is that like a robotic workforce is more likely to take over, and then humans are just going to be left to rot. And like what are people without work? So like I think the real world outcome would be far more devastating in this situation than what the movie shows, and that's why like I'm against it. And that's why, I mean, not to skip ahead to the question of the week, but like this whole idea of would you be comfortable with that happening? Like I'd be comfortable, but I don't want it because why would we void people of this job that is so kind of fundamental and that has been around for so long, So I don't like how that kind of story plays out. But I do like the story of how the US are like warmongering, like, warlords. Because that part of the thesis is great. But then, yeah, the whole AI being the victim of it, not a fan of.
Okay. All right. Let me throw this at you then. In my opinion, you're basically, what you just described is that you're on the US side in this. Because in my perspective, I love the scene by the pool, by the way, when the US general, what's her name, Hal, and the other guy, they basically explain everything from their perspective. They understand that the stakes are humanity goes extinct in this. And I feel like that's, again, maybe I'm too open-minded. I feel like that's sort of the perfect argument as to why AI should win. Because their whole thing is that they're trying to protect humanity. They don't want us to die off, all that kind of thing. But to quote Ty Villager, number 4 in this film, you can't beat AI, it's evolution, right? And it's so odd that Hal in this movie, to me, makes this argument that, the Neanderthals went extinct because we were better than them. And then, but we need to protect humanity at all costs. And we need to stop this threat of extinction that is AI. So is she making the argument that we shouldn't have evolved past Neanderthals? That Neanderthals, if they had the chance, should have killed us? You know what I'm saying? I think there's inherent contradiction in the whole argument that doesn't make any sense. And is understandable in that it's born from our own self-protection. Because obviously I understand the idea of me basically sitting here right now and saying that we should eventually go extinct is pretty weird and hard for, it's a heavy concept. I understand that. But I don't know. I think if you break it down logically, that's sort of what's being said in the script, How do you feel about that, Jen? Do you feel like I'm accusing you of too much?
Like the way that you frame it, it does make that argument seem weird. But like at the same time, like I don't understand why you would want to trend in that direction. Like I don't like just beyond self preservation. Like I don't understand why you would want to trend in that direction of AI replacement. I think every piece of science fiction literature has warned against it, and like apart
It's
from
true.
now, you know.
Apart from this one.
And I think you already see like even today, I think you see the damaging effects of. I mean, I say damaging, you say profitable, because you're just a full on venture capitalist. But you see the layoffs that have been occurred, like you know, as with the prevalence of like AI these days, you see how it harms artistry, and I know you're all for that, but like
hang on, steady on.
I mean,
I'm happy to have this conversation. Yeah, go for it.
I don't know. Maybe she's right. Maybe Neanderthals should have fought harder. Who knows?
Well, maybe I don't know. You could make the argument for that, I guess.
Yeah.
I would need to think about that. That's interesting.
I don't
yeah.
think in real life you'll ever achieve such a harmonious depiction as what is shown in New Asia. You will never have a balance of people working together. You'll never have, because as soon as like these they make robots that can work on the rice farms, it will be exclusively robots that work on the rice farms. You will never have a hand in hand relationship in real life.
Yeah.
And I just don't think it's worth displacing so much of the workforce, because then the way that the current world exists is that people out of work struggle. People out of work that are struggling, they die because they can't feed themselves, they can't clothe themselves, they can't house themselves, because the world isn't kind and they don't house people that don't work, you know? So that's why this situation is just not realistic. That's why it's fiction. That's why it's science fiction, not science fact.
Yeah. Yeah, science fact. I can't disagree that this film feels much more like it's making that larger thesis I was talking about, as opposed to like it's not trying to. And I think it's a fair point, actually. Like, if you try and break it down, like economically, politically, logistically, in all these different ways, it sort of does fall apart in its depiction. But I don't think the film's necessarily trying to. That's not necessarily like the art it's trying to convey. You know what I mean? But I think that's a valid criticism. Fitzy, I need you to weigh in on this. I need your thoughts.
Well, just on the whole thesis rebuttal thing.
Sorry. How many times have we said thesis this episode compared to how many times we've said it throughout the history of the show?
Yeah, I know.
We've already passed.
I don't think we've even used this word before now. So 20 times. But like, just to be a bit petty, I guess, it feels a bit more like a overarching theory or something than a thesis.
Okay, right. Yeah.
It feels like you could be right in terms of the future historical value of this film. Like, it feels like it could become some kind of touch point for pro AI thinking, I guess. But it just feels a little too unspecific in the way they handle why AI is better, I guess. Like, I wanted the film to delve more into, like, at one point that villager said they're gonna replace us because they have bigger hearts and that kind of thing. So I kind of thought maybe the film was going for a kind of, because AI is more, they're better social creatures, they have more survivability or something, or like, it would kind of disprove Hal's point that the only reason we're better than the Neanderthals is because we were more aggressive. Maybe it was because we were actually more harmonious and we actually work together better and that kind of thing. So I did want the film to explore that more and kind of go in that direction, but it did leave me a bit vague. So in that sense, so that's why I call it a theory, not a thesis. But
yeah.
But I do agree that that's the film's overall kind of point, overall direction. This very staunchly pro AI thing, but it's not. I don't think it's a watermark in either. Like, we've definitely seen pro AI kind of films, and robots can have feelings too, kind of things. Chat Elysium and AI, artificial. The Spielberg film. So it's been there before, but yeah, I see what you mean, I guess.
Yeah. No, those ideas have definitely been explored before. and probably I actually, that's what you guys have both made a really good point about, how it doesn't really tackle the specifics of why they are better in those ways, and like it doesn't really make an argument for that. I think that's totally valid. I guess in that way, I think it's kind of on the, like, if I just visualize like the final images of the film, that final scene and what that represents, it's kind of like, I feel like it's trying to say, like, I like that general theory, the way you put it. It's like, I feel like it's trying to say something just a bit less specific, but a bit larger, a bit more broad, and just like, AI going to be free kind of thing. Yeah, overall, more like try and get that, try and convey that to the audience as opposed to like more nuanced discussions, I suppose. Which I think is, when I think of that final scene, which I really love, I think that's like the lasting image of the film, that when people watch it in 100 years, it's going to be like, we're going to, throughout history, we're going to have all these little conversations and, and debates and go into all the things that Jaden's brought up that are totally need to be brought up for sure. But I think the film sort of just skips right to the end result, if that makes sense. It gets to what ultimately it thinks is going to be our path forward, sort of thing. And I think that's sort of why it's ahead of its time, and is sort of challenging for us to sort of accept, to skip so many steps almost, like logically, for where we're at right now. It's also interesting, such an interesting time for it to come out, with like it coming out during that the Hollywood strikes and stuff, and that with all the raging debates about AI used for assistance with script writing and things of that nature, and acting, and of course we've talked about it in private. I know about all the recent developments with ChatGPT didn't exist 2 years ago, and all this kind of stuff. It feels like this medium, is that the right word? This technology is progressing so fast as we speak, that I feel like it's just an interesting film for this time to come out, as we're having these debates, as there's a lot of skepticism right now. Then for it to, as I said, skip so many steps, like potentially hundreds of years into the future, and sort of make its grand point, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, it does skip some steps, because it's not even talking about jobs. The film kind of like shudders at that idea. It's kind of like, there's like a throwaway line, the lady says to John David Washington's character, like, that we were scared they were going to take our jobs, and then he's like, "Oh, he can have my job," kind of thing. So it's not exploring that. It's
That's true.
It's exploring rights for a species that doesn't really exist yet. So it is ahead of its time in that sense. Yeah.
100%, 100%. And that's where I think the empathy comes into it. I think it is much more of an emotional connection kind of thing it's trying to elicit from the audience, in terms of all these little lines of dialogue and scenes. Some of them I think are really well done. Instead of trying to make an argument about people's jobs and displacement and things like that, it's instead all the way leaning in on these things are alive. That's its like, shining neon light of what it's trying to convey in so many of these different scenes. And I think it's mostly successful in that, and that's why I think sort of the sympathy element's important. Perfect example. I mean, there's actually tons in the movie. I could really choose any, but like, for me, that first scene, I think it's the exact scene you just brought up. The scene when that one robot gets turned back on, and he's like begging. Well, he was like begging for someone he knew or something.
The child, I think he wants to know is all right or something.
Yeah, and he's like, please. But it's one of those things where you can write it, and it's like, if you were to read that scene, you've seen that shit, right? You've seen that before. In my opinion, the way it was done, like, far exceeded the material in terms of the vocal performance from the robot, just the visuals of it, the grittiness of it. It felt very real to me. It like totally hit. And when that other actress like had that reaction, like, holy shit, man, that shit was real, I was like, based on what I just saw, like, I agree. Like, it was very well conveyed, in my opinion, on screen. And so that's just one example of the film, like, doing a really good job to try and get sympathy and make you really feel like these things are living. These things are 100% human equivalent. That's one example of it working. So I want to know if it worked for you guys, and maybe I'll frame it. Well, you can talk about that scene if you like, but also another one for me is like, did you feel for those goddamn suicide bombers.
What, the military ones?
Yeah.
Well, they didn't. They weren't AI. They seemed more robotic.
No, they were, dude. Oh, I totally disagree. With the way that they turned that one on, and he was like, Hi, General Howe. It's been an absolute pleasure to serve you. I am here. And Howe was like, get the fuck out. Just run. You know what I mean? I feel like that was a total sympathy ploy, personally.
Yeah.
It was like, I felt I was meant to feel like those things were totally alive doing that.
I thought that was just, advanced
Programming.
military drones. Yeah.
It's just programming.
that it did feel like an emotional ploy, but I didn't think they were sentient. But I guess they
okay.
I guess they could have been, yeah. But
okay. So hang on. So sorry. You don't think the robots in the film were sentient at all?
No.
The suicide bombers.
The suicide bombers.
Sorry. But sorry. While I've brought it up, do you think the other robots are sentient?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
But that scene that you were talking about, where he's like asking for assistance, that that worked for me. That was good. But that was still a moment where I was questioning like where the film hadn't really decided what it stands was or whatever. So that was a bit like I didn't know if that was supposed to be a throw off or what, but it was executed very well. Yeah, I don't know. Like I still don't know if that robot was sentient or not, or whether that was like an early version of what they have today.
Well,
I guess it would have been sentient, maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
Because there is two different types. We have like the full robots, and we have the synthetics as well. So like,
yeah.
Are the synthetics the one that is sentient, and the robot-looking ones are just programmed or whatever, or are they both the same?
Right. I think the film's 100% saying they're all 100% sentient.
Apart from the suicide bombers.
I still disagree with that, but fair enough. Yeah. Okay. I mean, that is an interesting... Yeah. No,
the suicide bombers probably are sentient, actually, because he gives respect to, like, the superior, the creator and the martyr. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The way that... It's then in contrast, like I said, the way Hal then responds to it was like funny in how dark it was, in my opinion. And then, like, seeing the contrast to like all these moments of light we get with the robots, like those two we've talked about. There's another, in my opinion, when you have like the scene when that AI is like telling all the AI kids the story about how one day we'll be free, kind of thing, and it's like, again, another scene on paper you've seen a million times before of like, one day we'll beat the big bad guys and we'll get to live in harmony, but like the way it's done just feels like really real to me, and it's like I totally understand. Again, buying in, if you choose to buy into like I do, the idea that all these things are sentient, then it's like that really hits for me, and that's like that really I really sympathize with that. But I clearly lost where I was going. Shit. Oh yeah, sorry. Contrast the light with the darkness of like the humans, in my opinion, suck in this movie. They're the worst. So the US Army, the way that they deal with that first infiltration mission, for example, the way they shoot the doctors and they cut the dude's face off and shit like that, just seeing how brutal they are in combat, it makes me probably another sympathy ploy for sure.
She also fake surrenders and then kills them all, which is a breaking of the Geneva Convention. You can't fake surrender.
Yep. Was that, and then it was later, right, that Hal like pretended she was helping that one, got the information, and then shot it in the head. I think that's later in the film. I might be mixing that up.
Oh yeah.
You know what? When she gets the info of where Josh was going, and then she just executes it. Yeah, things like that, like brutal tactics that they don't give a shit about because in their head, it's just programming, that it's robots, whatever. Just seeing that displayed is another piece of the puzzle for me, where it's like, you understand where these guys are coming from in terms of they think they're fighting for humanity's survival, which sounds like a noble cause, sure, I guess. But then seeing just their methods and seeing what's really at stake on the ground, it changes my viewpoint, and it sort of makes me skeptical for the future. Where like, I'm not saying I don't think would. I mean, I've got no idea. I guess the concept of having an open war against AI like this film depicts is possible. I don't know. It's a possible outcome. I think if that outcome were to come to fruition in some form, that humans probably would be that terrible, and that's sort of sad. So that sort of made me reflect on that as well.
I mean, you don't really need to say probably, because there's shit tons of case studies throughout history of where humans are terrible to each other. So what is
true.
it to it? You
Of
know,
course.
I mean, like in that like fucking when they're in that like Nepalese village at the end, and like you see them execute all the AI, like that shit straight out of Vietnam, man. Like it's a story that's been told, like not told, but it's a story that's happened many times before. Just
that's a great point.
You know,
well, that's almost, that makes it strong. I mean, I guess that I must have got that subconsciously or something, because that's totally true. Because the fact that we've seen this is like human cycle repeating itself sort of makes it seem even more plausible. You know, that it's like things would go this way again, and we'd inevitably not learn from it, because in our heads it's like, oh, because they're AI, this shit's different. You know what I mean? It's like we just don't learn the same lesson over and over again. So I think those conversations that the film sort of has are very interesting. I guess should we get into more, like, should we get into the visuals now? I feel like that was such a big conversation.
You had that fucking heavy shit first, huh?
Yeah, exactly. It feels like that was such a big conversation that it feels almost like underwhelming to get into like the more usual stuff we talk about, you know?
Yeah, well, I love the opening scene,
Yeah.
where they have the kind of faux, 60s documentary footage, and at first it kind of seems like they're just showing you like real footage of like computers and stuff, but then they actually like showing like humanoid robots, and it just kind of launches straight into that. It transitions from that 60s footage of the explosion to that real like live, massive blow up in LA, and that was an awesome just introduction to the film. And then, yeah, as I said earlier, just throughout like the CGI VFX, all that was like implemented into the environment like really well. The like natural, very wide landscape environment, very Rogue One-ish. So yeah, it was just awesome visually.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
So
I started with my like, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I started with like my light switched on and like my kind of headphones like half off like that, and then like by the time like the soldiers were like emerging from the ocean in the fucking Philippines, I was like, lights were off, like fully on, I was like, I was locked in.
Yeah, I had to switch TVs. I had to like, this had to be experienced on the biggest TV possible.
Awesome. I'm so glad you guys feel so strongly about that as well. Speak quickly on that opening sequence. I thought it was awesome. I love the introduction to the lore of like it reminds you how original this world is in terms of like, I love like AI. It reminds me of Fallout in terms of how technology's evolved in a different way, where AI comes in much earlier. Where like in the 19, I sort of got the impression like in the 1960s, AI is sort of already a plausible thing. Like, that's when it sort of starts. It feels like maybe even earlier. Like just seeing like that the robots like in that filmic quality of like a 1960s documentary was just really cool, a visual choice. So I was really into that, and seeing them in the grainy film and all that was really cool. But I've got to say, the way that all these what you guys have said, like the way the visual effects, sci-fi elements are incorporated into this film is just gorgeous. It's probably, we talked about this with Dune, it's probably like the best blend of on-location shooting and CG since Dune. I don't know if I could say which one. I don't know if I could make an argument for which one is better, but definitely feels very close to that in the conversation. And just, I love so much about this film visually in terms of, I think, so they shot shitloads of this in Thailand, and I just freaking love that contrast, the mix of like all the ships and the crazy like those buildings. I want to get Jaden's thoughts on, if he has any thoughts on the architecture, like the design of all that, just mixed beautifully with like the on location Thai mountains. It's just such a beautiful mix, It just works so well.
Yeah,
I really did appreciate that. It was like, it was super kind of like it was like a super refined. Sorry, hold on. Refine's not the right word. What's like? I think it was very realistic for the first like hour odd, where you're only in the farmland and you're seeing like mineral integration, where you're seeing like seeing a lot of real world stuff, and then like some robot assistants, and then like you do eventually get to the big like cities, and like
Yeah.
I think like in having that growth to that point, it makes it feel a lot more natural, in terms of what you're presenting, and how you get there, and like I think like the way the world is established and how it's yeah, visually great. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. No, 100%. It does really build to the cities. How did you? Was there one particular aspect of the architecture that stood out to you?
Not really. It went a lot more Blade Runner than I thought it would when it got to the cities.
Definitely.
Um, and it did kind of seem a bit standard, but like maybe a bit cleaner than other typical depictions of cyberpunk. Um, I think the design of the ship is very impressive though, and I think the interior spaces
Oh
that we
yeah,
get of Nomad, um, I think they're great. Um,
definitely.
but yeah, kind of stock standard in terms of building design, I think, in cyberpunk.
Yeah, true. In Cyberpunk,
Yeah.
for me, it was like I said with the tie stuff, but it was like those sort of cylinder-shaped buildings that like they had at the AI base, for example, like sort
Yeah.
of
Oh, like the
with
temple.
the ocean and the mountains and oh no, I'm talking before like at
No,
Ken
no,
Watanabe's joint. You know what I'm talking about? Like the
I like the
sort of like pill-looking buildings, then right in the mountains. You know what I'm talking about, Fitzy? I sound like a
At what
man.
point in the movie is this when?
Like at the Scarif fight.
Yeah, but wasn't that just like a shantytown?
Yeah, but in the background, there's always like these. It was kind of, but then there were these big like sci-fi looking buildings there too.
Okay.
Anyway, I
I
thought
bet
like
that
that's
temple
really
was
cool.
awesome, and once
Oh
again,
yeah,
well integrated into the scenery.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. Can you guys believe? Okay, hang on. Do you guys know anything about the budget for this movie?
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say that.
You do?
Like, I
Yeah.
saw from Andy's review that this wasn't like the most expensive film, and it was like filmed on a, consumer,
Yeah,
designed, camera or whatever. So that's very
it was.
impressive.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so glad you guys already brought up the cinematography on the beach at the start. Like when that dude, like I've said it so many times, but give me a strike team doing something dope
Yeah.
at night, love it. But then also like the way that felt, the cinematography of that opening scene was gorgeous. Greg Fraser didn't end up shooting this movie, but he heavily worked on the pre-production of the visual design of the film, and
I
then
was
someone had
wondering
to
why
take
there's
over.
two credited cinematographers.
Yeah, so Greg was working on it, and then I think scheduling or something, he was the other dude took him over, but like he heavily worked on it in pre-production. And I think he made the choice for the camera they were going to use. They basically used basically what Andy said. They used a pretty chill camera in comparison to most high budget stuff, which it's so funny that you can't tell at all. But wait, so Fitzy, do you know the budget for this film?
No, tell me.
Do you want to guess?
Well,
I don't want you to go too low either.
yeah, no, because I don't know, 80 million. I'll say.
100%, you know, it's $80 million.
Okay.
Yeah. This shit blows my mind. It's like we've already talked about. It's the best looking sci-fi film I've seen in. I feel like ever's a stretch, but like I mean, June's right up there too. Like, oh, it's got to be. It's top 5 at least. So, huge credit to that. I listened to a great interview with Gareth Edwards. I might cite a few more times if it comes up, but the way he talked about this and how they used the budget, basically how they did it on this budget, was so interesting to me because he basically talked about the entire. It was entirely how they approached pre-production on this movie and how they did it very, very intentionally, very differently to standard Hollywood affairs because of so many of the different inefficiencies he'd observed in that process working in it. And basically he'd done it a few times, seen money be wasted in how it's usually done, and observed that and basically made it his mission to revamp the entire, not even necessarily like, well, definitely the order of things, but not necessarily like have to like reconstruct the entire process, but just basically adopt a different mindset, which was, in essence, let's get artists and production designers together. What would usually happen, I should say first, Hollywood, they'd get all these people together and they design what they want, for example, for this cool whatever planet set, right? They want this for this cool, elaborate sci-fi set, and they'd get everyone together, design what they want for it, what they want it to look like, for example. Then once they've got that final vision for it, they'd realize the only way to achieve it was through green screen and just a ton of VFX budget. So it's like, oh, okay, $200 million movie, done. $250 million to achieve that. Instead, he was all about finding the real world locations, practical sets that were already the closest possible match for what he was after. And then basically just layering all of the CG and technology on top of what was already 70 to 80% there in camera. And it's just like the way he explained that was like really interesting to me. Of just like, oh yeah, that sounds like a no-brainer, but it's clearly never really been done in that way before, and it's how they were able to do it. So all that money could be spent just layering on top of all the stuff that, I bet if you watch this movie with no visual effects, like it would still look, obviously tons of it wouldn't make any sense, but it would still look like a really gorgeous movie in its own right. You know what I mean? And so that was the entire approach, which I just needed to speak about because I thought it was so fascinating how they were able to do it on that budget. And I'll be really interested to see if other filmmakers figure this shit out as well, because it, in a way, does almost feel like the most innovative thing that the film does from a filmmaking perspective.
Well, I've seen Old Mate's early work in Monsters.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what the budget was for that, but I imagine it was fucking tiny. But even there, he uses it really well, and like it is, I think, a lot of on location stuff as the two trek through like a fucking jungle or whatever the scenery was. I can't really recall. And then but when the actual aliens do come into play, they do look great, and like, the way, like, I think they use the environment to obscure, or darkness to obscure like parts of it and like integrate it well into the thing. So like, we've seen him operate at different levels of budget with Godzilla and Rogue One, and now this and his first picture and all that, and like he seems really successful in all of it.
It was really cool because I know with not to make it a Rogue One discussion, but I know obviously there's so much talk about how that film went through all its trouble and Gareth was kind of replaced on the movie, but it really did give me a lot of. It was an interesting perspective seeing, in my opinion, just how well that shootout sequence at Ken Watanabe's base, that entire sequence, the one with the suicide bombers, but then all the combat before that, that reminded me so much of Scarif.
Yeah.
But it was genuinely made me happy because it made me realize, like Gareth's film is there in Rogue One. Like it's not, because there's so much talk these days of like how much was really him, but I can now see it like 100% on screen. So that was really cool.
But like just on the budget as well, like isn't it like kind of like an open industry like secret that like, Hollywood finance does indicate that when there's a $200 million budget, producers do scalp $1 million here and there before like anything else happens, and then like the rest goes to like the film, and like that's why like, I don't know, it's just a little different.
I mean, I've got no idea. That kind of wouldn't surprise me though, to be honest.
Oh,
what happens now? This is new.
Yeah. No, I mean that's very interesting. It would be. I'm interested to hear exactly how he did that.
Yeah,
and like whether marketing factored into that, because they usually like factor advertising into the budget, don't they? Or like kind of.
Oh no, it's usually a separate budget. So
okay, yeah. But anyway, yeah, I don't know how he just achieved that by. I guess he's just an efficient man. I don't know.
This film did take a long time to make, obviously. Okay. So, like, maybe, he had this idea after Rogue One. So, like, it's been what, 7 years or something. So he thought all about.
He was just location scouting the whole time, just to
honestly
bring the budget down to $100 million.
Yeah. A shitload of work probably went into that, and it sucks that the film still wasn't that successful, really. But if what he's done allows more films like this to be made,
yeah,
it's awesome.
That's why I thought it might be a marketing thing, but maybe not, because this film didn't feel. It didn't feel very It didn't feel very in your face when it came out. It just kind of came and went.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's totally true. That might also be a result of, because obviously this has been at the work since before Disney acquired 20th. So I don't know.
Right.
I don't know how that works in terms of how much they care about promoting it. If that makes sense, I don't know. Might be a factor. Then it gets shat out on Disney Plus like everything else.
Well, they should promote it if they have their whole if they want to push their pro AI agenda out into the world.
Exactly. Yeah. Well said. Okay, we can talk about some characters a little bit.
Oh,
Most
those. Yeah. Right.
What are those? The most controversial. I mean, at least for me initially, was Alfie being in this movie. Jan, how does Alfie stack up against other child actors? I want you to give me a
She was quite
ranking.
decent. Yeah.
Yeah, you thought she was good. Yeah,
She was no child from FNAF, but she was quite good.
is that your gold standard?
Honestly, yeah, pretty much. I mean, like, tell me a better one.
No, I don't disagree. I just think
Yeah.
it's funny. I think of like it's just it feels like such a random pull, but like yeah, no, I don't disagree. Yeah, I thought she was really good. I think she doesn't stand out in her performance, but probably only because I don't feel like she, as a character, has like a lot of standout scenes. Like she hits emotional beats for sure. Like when it looked like when Joshua was about to kill her, or when it seems that way. You know, she gets a bit teary when she has to say goodbye to Joshua at the end. That was really sweet. You know, so she hits those emotional beats for sure. But it feels like there's not a lot of room to breathe for her performance. You know, it does feel very plot driven for her, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, you brought it up earlier, but she does fit. The character does fit into that subgenre of. Well, I think they called.
Oh yeah, what are they
No, I
called?
won't say that. I won't say that. But like the characters who they don't initially speak. They don't initially speak English or anything, and they slowly learn to communicate. And when you have like a kid in that role, it's kind of like, they learn cute words or whatever, or they say, asshole here and there, and it's kind of supposed to be funny.
You should be a writer.
Yeah, but
That's spot on.
no, she was decent. I don't think much of the acting really stood out. I mean, John David Washington was really good. Alison Janney was there. She doesn't usually do much for me, but I guess
No.
she was good as a kind of fascistic kind of U.S. Military person, but I think Washington and Watanabe were probably like the better half of the movie in terms of acting.
Oh, okay. I
don't really know
That's
who else
interesting.
was.
Yeah.
It took
Watanabe
me
didn't
way
really
too
do
long
much
to
for
figure
me.
out it was Ralph Ineson was the fucking other general.
Oh, who's he? Is he European in real life?
I think he is. Yeah, I think he's on. I'm pretty sure he's either UK or something like that.
I've seen him before.
Yeah, like I was like, I know this voice, and I was like, your voice doesn't belong
Yeah.
on your body, and I was like, oh wait, no, I do. I figured out who you are now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, was Gemma Chan. I swear she was initially doing a British accent, and then she became Australian. Like there was a hint of an Australian accent in there.
It's so funny you say that. No, she was doing her normal British accent, but there was one scene. Oh, I think it was one voiceover, because you know how they do the non-linear editing thing with their voiceover. I think there was one section of it that I was like, "There's something slightly different going on here."
Yeah, no, she was putting on an Australian accent, like 100%.
Maybe it's because of like the political dynamic of the new world, and maybe Australia's part of New Asia, and she's developed that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Oceania gets roped into New Asia.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the most likely outcome.
I thought it was only in one bit though. I thought the rest of it was normal.
Yeah, no, she was British at the start, but she became Australian. 100%.
Yeah, I actually agree with that.
There's too many Australians in Thailand, and she started developing the.
Right.
The
That's
accent.
actually a really solid theory. Yeah, exactly. All the bogans go over there for holidays and shit, you know.
Whoa.
That's the kind of thing I don't want to be associated with myself on video. But it's too late now, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. No, Watanabe didn't do. I love him, but he didn't do much for me in this movie. He was kind of there. I love John David as well. when he dude, I don't know what it is about him. Like I could watch him. His screen presence just works for me so well. Like I could watch him be the most generic action character of all time, and it'd still be better than most people. But then,
it's like his dad, man.
right, he kind of is like his dad. I don't know if I've seen him yet deliver like the raw emotion of his dad in a performance. Like it might be out there. I just don't know if I've seen it. But like in terms of the screen presence, I totally agree. And then when he gets the chance to sort of throw in, it's better in Tenet. But like in this as well, when he gets the chance to throw in some little comedic bits and bobs here and there, but it's never too much. Like it's almost to the point where you'd overlook it as comedy. Just little lines, like when he'd say shit like don't choose the name Candy because that's reserved in Las Vegas. Like the way he just delivers that, it's just so like it comes across so spontaneous of just like he's not trying to be funny, but it just works. There's a few little lines like that. It's always great.
I had Tenet flashbacks when he was like telling the kid to be quiet, like he was like hushing, with the physical gesture. Because I think there's a moment in Tenet where he does it. I can't remember where it was, but yeah, that yanked me back to Tenet for a second.
True. Where is that in Tenet? Maybe when?
Oh, I think it's is it in? Isn't it in the deli sequence?
Yeah. When he
with him and Rob,
goes past like some guy,
yeah. No, you're right. You're totally right about that.
I didn't like his hair in this movie though. I thought the hair was an odd choice. No,
which one?
The orange kind of thing.
Yeah. But so that I don't know if you caught this, Liam. That represented when he was like more free. He was like Gemma Chan. It was like the buffy hair was like Gemma Chan, like Namada mode, and then dreadlocks was like suppressed US military man mode. Subtle storytelling.
Symbolism at its finest. Yeah.
No, I actually agree with that. His hair was a mess when it was like that. Okay, I'm gonna just to turn it a little bit critical for me, but I want to get your thoughts on this. Did you guys feel the third act was rushed? This might also link back to what Fitzy was saying about how the film didn't really find another gear earlier.
I don't know if it was rushed, but it did feel very messy. Like there were just like a lot of elements going on at the same time. Like, the kid trying to reanimate his mom and blowing up the base and stopping the missiles. Meanwhile, it was just a bit. They were just juggling a few too many elements, I think. And if it was rushed, like there's no reason it should have been, because it was it was a long movie, so they should have had time to stretch that out and do it properly. But I don't know. I guess it was a bit rushed. It did feel a bit strange.
That was my main thing with it, and I'm so interested you brought the runtime, because another tidbit I got from a Gareth interview was that he said that like there was more of this film on the floor, and basically, and I can't argue with the logic necessarily. I disagree with the result, but Gareth said that they kept trimming the film to get. They were testing the film, and they kept getting a higher test score the more they trimmed, and this version was the version that tested the highest, obviously. So, and to me, it feels like the trimming was all in the last half an hour. Mainly because I feel like you get the beat where it's like Joshua's going to kill Alfie, and then there's the psych moment there where she's alive. But then from then on out, it's like, what the fuck? Because it goes into like, now we're going on a solo mission to destroy Namada, just like that by ourselves. And it's like, all right. And then like you blink and then they're already on the flight. And it's like, all right. And then and then it just goes from lightning from there. It's like sort of completely changes gear in terms of pacing. So that threw me off the first time. And I still feel that way this time. I feel like that's where the trimming must have been, because it totally just sort of shoots off from there, in my opinion. How do you feel about Jan?
I don't know. I don't know about like rushed, yes, but not to the extent that some other products feel rushed in the final act. But given, I think it's just given the time that the film has, given the time that the film gives to earlier sequences in comparison, for sure.
100%. Because on paper, it's like, okay, it feels like definitely should be a third act where it's like, okay, now it's the mission to destroy Nomad. Did I say Nomada earlier? I don't know. But the mission to destroy Nomad is like the third act of this movie. But if you pause it right when that switch happens, there's only 20 minutes left of screen time. And so it's like, it's a third act that's really like a sixth of the movie or something. It's like, it's a lot crammed in there. But yeah, I presume that's where, like you said, Fizzy, I think they could have, I guess on my part, but I think that's where the film could have had more scenes and could have been
Yeah, I
lifted
guess
a
so.
little bit more.
Yeah, as Jane said, if you're gonna have, if you're gonna explore the early scenes that much, then yeah, it should be paced evenly. I guess. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, because the rest of it before that felt like it was all how it should have been. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it all looked amazing though. We don't need to reiterate that again. But
I think the crosshair moving across these Asian landscapes is probably going to become like one of my favorite kind of visuals.
cool. That shit's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, oh, dude, the sound design might be the best part though.
Mm.
That sound of the targeting system of Nomad is like, holy, that's peak. That's
But
awesome.
like, I'm a big fan of the 2014 Godzilla and the sound in that film, because I recently rewatched it somewhere near the end of last year, and like when I did, I was like, all right, I need this experience to be perfect. So like I knew, like, I had a feeling I was shortchanged by people's opinions and constantly seeing low reviews for it. And I was like, I don't think I felt that way about the movie. So going back into it, I was like, I think I need to have it loud. I think I need to have it dark. I have it quiet. I think I need everything here, and like it worked. So like I think sound design and like, yeah, also given Star Wars obviously with Rogue One, I think sound design is something that I've come to trust Gareth on a shit ton, and
Sure.
like what he kind of develops with his teams.
Definitely. Well, I was going to ask that does the sound and like the large scale visuals of those targeting shots you're talking about, does that sort of felt like, I haven't seen his Godzilla, but it almost reminded me of like, it would be kind of like that.
You haven't seen Godzilla?
No.
What the fuck, dude?
Sorry. But did that remind you of that at all?
Probably less so because it's less technologically advanced, but like the way that I think his Godzilla is very brute on the ground, and like there's your share of aerial shots of your monster battles, but like it is very set in Aaron Taylor Johnson's character's perspective. So what it's probably best at is developing that scale, and then the sound that kind of comes along with that.
Gotcha.
It did.
Yeah.
It did remind me of Godzilla when they were they had the kind of air raid thing, because like at the start of Godzilla they have these these military guys jump out of the airplane and they all have like flares and they're all like this wide, like this big landscape shot of them like going down with their their flare trails or whatever, and that was like,
that's exceptional shit.
Yeah, well, that was like very atmospheric as well, the way they kind of built that up from the inside the plane. And then in here you kind of had the same kind of thing when they played the Radiohead song and they were like invading like Thailand kind of thing. So that was that was a similarity there. Yeah.
Dude, when everything in its right place started fucking playing, I was like,
oh yeah,
what?
that was great.
Yeah.
I saw the subtitle. I'm like, Jane's gonna love that shit.
And
of course. Bit of trivia here. Edwards revealed that he initially planned on having a company specializing in AI-generated music replicate Zimmer's style of music for the score. Although the process gave him satisfying results, Edwards instead chose Zimmer to originally score the film. I just think that's great. Like, he's so committed to his thesis in this film that he was like, I'm going to have an AI like try and replicate Hans Zimmer.
I think Zimmer's score was pretty average, to be honest. I think it kind of I didn't even realize it was him until the end. Okay. I think what Andy said about his review, about it being like kind of unidentifiable or just average for his standards, like it felt a bit shortchanged and kind of a little bit thrown in. I'm going to be honest.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I think it had its traditional swells and its emotional in its tension pieces, but I think that it has nowhere near the gravitas or like the pull that so many of his other scores do.
Yeah. I'm higher on it. I don't disagree. I don't think it's top tier zero at all, but I'm higher on it than you. It also is one of those ones where, like, again, rewatch / I've also listened to this score by itself really helps, which is always the case. So, like, obviously take that for what it is. But I did really like it. I think there's that scene in the film. There's a montage. When they're on the bus, and the film does this non-linear editing thing, but it's like sort of a 2-minute montage where they have all these insert shots. Like, they quickly show an AI riding a bike. They quickly show monkeys walking in the city. And then it's all overlaid with the discussion that Alfie and Joshua are having about going to heaven. And then Joshua sees clones of Maya on the train. Like, that, all that in 2 minutes, and that piece of music with it was beautiful, in my opinion. That was on a rewatch, that was gorgeous. I love that. And just like the visuals combined with it was really nice. That was probably my favorite bit of score, because it just all of it conveyed so much there. It's kind of its own little short film. And then I really like the ending music too. They're probably my two standouts. Yeah.
Well, I also felt shortchanged by the fact that the cut to credits, or the fade to credits, was the song was that one piano piece that the
oh yeah,
Claire
I did
de Lune.
recognize it.
Yeah.
That's not Claire de Lune, is it? Is it?
I thought it was.
No,
Maybe
shit.
not.
All right, maybe.
I did recognize it.
Yeah, but I was like, after all, you could have given me at least something. Yeah,
it contributes to your theory that he phoned this one in.
Didn't have time.
Yeah. Oh man,
you were talking earlier about how Alison Jane's character, she brings up the fact that we beat the Neanderthals and that AIs, we need to fight back against the AI. But what does it say that the animals in the film enact violence? First, the dog kills the robots with the grenade, but then later the monkey detonates the tank. So he's fighting both sides. So what does that say about the animal's position on this whole war?
It's a compelling point. I think the animals feel threatened because they realize they're inferior and they're the next to go. You know what I mean? They're kind of like the more, obviously, less sophisticated version, if you will, of the US general perspective, the US military. They're like, but it's like base instinct only for them, obviously. They don't get together and discuss this shit. But they're like, this thing bad.
Maybe it's saying, well, it's harmless animals that are the ones that are still around, because humans, we extinguished, we made extinct all the violent species. So maybe it's saying humans should just be like cheeky little harmless monkeys and like pets to the AI,
Right. I mean, that's what we would be before we also went extinct. So yeah. But again, to reiterate my earlier point, I'm all about it.
Well, what are you gonna do? Like, if you're a monkey, what are you gonna do? You're gonna fight? Yeah. Are you gonna fight humans if you're a monkey?
You're gonna take your opportunities when a detonator lands in your hands.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the dog did a good job for sure. I don't know if this is too small to bring up, but fuck it. How do we feel about this film? Like, the Japanese iconography in this film, I thought was interesting. Like, having, that when the title cards come up, I thought that was odd. I didn't.
What does your short say, cool, by the way?
Oh yeah. Can you read it, Jane?
How am I meant to fucking read that?
Come on.
I recognize none of it. Yeah.
Asahi Superdry is very yummy.
Oh, well, that's what the... Is that what it says in Japanese? Yeah. I can read the English part.
Yeah, Asahi Superdry. Very yummy.
Very yummy. Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. When I was lifting my shirt up, I honestly forgot for a minute we're a video podcast now. Like, everyone else can read it too. I'm so used to just being able to just do that stuff between us. Oh yeah, great. We'll see how that looks.
I think the only time, it's not the only time because it was constant, but I think having the synthetics look almost human, but then having a fucking servo motor on the back of the head, it was definitely a choice, because I think if you were to question the CG anyway, it's there because it looks very good, but it's not perfect. So that's something I was questioning. I was like, if you're going for this synthetic look and you're trying to argue that they're the same, why have that? And when it also compromises some of the visual integrity of the film. Do you guys feel the same?
Well, first of all, I don't. You saw like holes and issues in that part visually. I didn't.
I think it wasn't as like it was exceptionally good, but it wasn't as good. You know, I think if you're going to try and use that visual, I think they would have been better going like a traditional route of like a prosthetic rather than CG.
Mm. Mm. But then you wouldn't have like the holes they go through and they paint them out. They paint out the little gaps in their holes, their head holes.
Yeah, true.
I didn't feel like it compromised or anything. It was disagree. Press the disagree button. There's a button right here. The audience doesn't know about this button.
If you press the Alt F4 button, that indicates that you disagree, Liam.
I've played League. I know what the alt is.
Okay. Yeah. Is that how you bring up the scorecard in League?
The what?
Is that how you bring up the scorecard?
Oh yeah, Alt F4.
All right, let's get to our final verdicts for the creator, Liam.
It was going to be a 6, but I think this discussion has boosted it to a 7.
Hell yeah, dude!
So I'll give it a 7. Yeah.
Nice. It's an 8 for me. I gave it a 7 last time, so yeah, it's an 8 for me now. Jaden,
big fat 8 for me as well. You know, I have my complaints about tropes, but at the same time, like I love tropes. You know, they exist for a reason.
I guess
they work.
They work, for sure. Very good. I'm glad we did this one. Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? Let me tell you, if we can do it, anyone can. And that's thanks to Zencaster. Like a lot of other podcasts out there, our show is recorded over the web every week. But trying to record a podcast with platforms like Zoom and Discord can be an audio quality disaster. I'm sure you've heard some of the podcasts I'm talking about with long delays, sound cutting in and out. It is not pleasant. Zencaster captures studio quality sound for all of your guests right from your web browser. Zencaster's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. And with Zencaster's all-in-one platform, you can create and distribute your podcast to Spotify, Apple, and other major destinations all in one place. Go to Zencaster.com/pricing and use our code CinemaEffect to get 30% off your first month of any paid plan. That's Zencaster.com/pricing with promo code CinemaEffect with an E for 30% off today. Feel a sense of Zen with Zencaster. Let's get into news chat. We got two quick trailers to talk about here.
Hold on, are we using this as Liam's time to reset and recuperate and gather himself?
Such a specific joke. From one conversation last week. I think you're the only one who watched Drive Away Dolls, right, Jaden?
Yeah, apparently. You forced me into it.
Well, I didn't. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to give that impression. But what do you think of it?
It looks like a lot more. It looks fun. I knew that there was a Coen involved, but then like I saw that it was written and directed by Ethan, and I was like, oh, okay. And these days I trust the Coens a lot more than I used to. I had a bit of a thing against them in the past where I wasn't vibing with their films, but it honestly probably mostly started with this show when we rewatched No Country, and then we watched Fargo on the show and all this other shit, and I rewatched Oh Brother, We're Out There, and I was like, okay, no, I actually do really quite like their product. So seeing this now, seeing the Coen style, the actors, the jokes, and the kind of pace of the trailer, I'm like, I really trust it, and I'm keen for it.
Cool. So Margaret Qualley's in this? Anyone else?
Matt Damon's in it. The chick that she stars alongside looks familiar, but I don't quite know. And there's a few other actors that were rocking up over here and there.
Pedro Pascal's in it.
Yes, Pedro's there. Yes.
Oh, nice.
Oh, Beanie Feldstein's in there.
I don't know who that is, but
from Booksmart. Jonah Hill's sister.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha,
sister?
Gotcha, sorry. Sister. It was sister, right?
I don't know.
I think so.
Really?
Yeah, I know exactly who you mean. Okay. Well, which Coen's better, Ethan or Joel, anyway?
Has Joel done I haven't seen any of either of their solo work. If they have done, if Joel has done solo work,
I feel like which one's this one directed by?
Ethan.
Oh,
who did Tragedy of Macbeth? Was that Joel or Ethan?
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to do this. I was actually joking when I said which Coen's better, because I don't know, haven't they all made the films together? So how would you know? But I didn't. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. I apologize. A Quiet Place Day 1. I watched this. You didn't, Fitzy?
No.
Cool. I watched. I thought this looks dope. Love A Quiet Place. It's in Manhattan. Didn't know that. Pretty sick. It looked like, obviously, with that, the scale is pushed up. The budget looks pushed up. You got Lupita in there, who's great. I'm sold, personally.
I was surprised that Jamon is rocking up in this one.
Oh, yeah. Rebel Moon's most underutilized actor.
Well, that, but also the fact that he was in part 2, so that means he survives this one.
Shit, was he?
He was the leader of the island, wasn't he?
Oh, I totally forgot about that. Yeah.
So that means he
Oh.
it's kind of unfortunate knowing that, because that means any tension regarding is he going to die,
Yeah, he just spoiled
kind
it
of
for me.
evaporates. But like, it also means that you got, I don't know, you kind of,
It's more connected then, I guess.
yeah.
That's cool.
But Joseph Quinn isn't in the second, in the other two, so hopefully he cocks it. And
Yeah, right. Okay. Let's get to our highlights of the week. I'm curious, have we got anything? Have anyone been watching any TV?
Yeah. I watched True Detective season 1.
Oh shit!
Damn.
Which
That's
I'm
huge.
excited to chat about.
Yeah, please do.
Have you seen season 1, Liam?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I forget else
Right.
this all the time. I've seen season 1.
So you've seen season 1, but you've seen season 3 or 2?
Yeah, I'm the weird one. I've seen season 3 only. Yeah, it's
Okay.
weird.
Yeah. Season 1's brilliant. It's a fantastic crime story. It's a brilliant setting, and like this kind of the Texas, Louisiana fucking bayou or whatever they are. McConaughey is phenomenal, and so is Woody. I think like it is the perfect mystery story to tell for me in involving these occult aspects and the kind of slight horror that it uses. Like every episode is just so perfectly crafted to tell its own story that links to that links together. The reveal at the end of the season is obviously like the big thing that I was like waiting for. I was trying to think like, who could it be, what could it be, that it can be satisfying. And like I
I
think
had no idea there was one.
And I was just trying to think. I was like, am I satisfied? I think that's what I'm still. That's what, like, I'm satisfied, but I'm trying, like, what I'm still trying to settle with is how satisfied I am with its resolution. On a few things, on like there's kind of multiple things that it kind of leaves you on, and I'm still trying to kind of decide there. But the settings are stunning, and like the kind of like that, like where the final kind of event occurs, you know, in those kind of like in that brick fucking bunker or whatever. But then like even like the drug lab and just like the settings throughout, like the fallen church and all that shit, like it is all just brilliant. And I think Kerry Fukunaga like directed like all 8 episodes, didn't it?
I think so.
Probably.
Yeah. And like it is so like having, I don't like that's not standard these days. You don't have one director do 8 episodes of television these days, do you? So like having this is like a real treat, and having such a single kind of vision, and it's all written by one guy. There's not multiple writers like per episode. I don't think.
Right.
I think it is all just.
Cool.
I think there might be 2 writers actually, but it's all like one cohesive. It feels super cohesive compared to a lot of things these days that have their multiple kind of.
Right. It's like a film team.
Yeah. Yeah. Really, really fantastic stuff. And even when it kind of, I think it's episode 4, Liam, where like it kind of diverts into like Rust's background a bit. Yeah.
Yeah,
but even when it goes there, it kind of feels like it strays away from its essential story. And I was a bit hesitant at first, because when shows typically do that, they kind of lose their sight a little bit. But it ends up being phenomenal television, and it works well for the story anyway. It's all brilliant stuff, all fantastic.
Awesome. I've been going to start it so many times. I'm definitely it's on my like short.
I don't know why I ever stopped 2 years ago, 3, 4. Fuck, wait.
Well, how far did you get the first time?
I watched the first 2 episodes back in 2019. I don't know why I stopped. I don't know why I stopped. But
that happens.
Yeah.
I've been there.
But I'm so glad that I've never been spoiled. And like that's another thing I was thinking. I was like, do people not talk about the show? But like that doesn't feel right. The fact, like, it doesn't feel right to say that people don't talk about the show, because I feel like I hear it talked about often. But like the fact that I didn't know anything that happens, and that this was a completely fresh experience by the first 2 episodes, obviously. Yeah, it was special.
Yeah, no, I'm in the exact same boat because I haven't been spoiled, but like I hear about it all the time. Though everyone loves it, so yeah, I don't think we have to fear about that. I've been dabbling in some TV. I don't know if I feel like I've got a bit of a curse going on this show, where it's happened a few times where I bring up a show that I'm too early in and then I end up dropping it, and I feel like it's as a result of the fact I talked about it on highlights. So that's my ongoing theory. So I kind of want to be careful. Oh, okay. What for the Alice and Janney connection? I'll say I'm watching The West Wing for the first time. It's a daunting task, but it is phenomenal. Like I can't get enough of it right now. I'm like all in. I'm really scared the curse is going to. It means like I'm going to drop it in 2 weeks, but right now I love it. I love like for me like when she popped up in this. Like, I remembered she was in it, but like I'm like, oh, you're CJ from The West Wing, and I like she's so good in that. She's so good in the show. Everyone's so good in the show. So I didn't appreciate your Alice and Janney slander earlier. I'll just put it that way.
Sorry.
Only for the West Wing though. I don't know. Is she an I, Tonya? Such a random.
Yeah, she's the mum in I, Tonya.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I've seen her in that
she's
too.
Great.
Yeah, she's great.
American Beauty as well as the.
Oh, the Sam Mendes film, right?
Yeah.
Is she the wife in that?
She's the Chris Krupa's wife. Yeah, she's not. Annette Bening is Kevin Spacey's wife, who's Naiad woman. Nominated. So. But I guess it's my turn. To talk about keener television out here. I rewatched The Sopranos, the pilot of The Sopranos, because they uploaded it on YouTube for like a week last month because of the 25th anniversary. So it was kind of been in the back of my mind just to rewatch it. So I'm not like committing to like rewatching the whole show or anything.
I was going to say, you said I rewatched The Sopranos, and I was like, what?
The pilot.
It's like, wow. Yeah.
But yeah, the pilot's great. It's it introduces so many of Tony's like relationships perfectly, and the story of the ducks is just really great. It's the main thing I took away from it though was that it's just so beautiful how like lighthearted and fun everything is in this, and I guess the first season as well, like compared to season 6 and stuff, compared to the later stuff, because the show just gets really depressing later on. Yeah, it's great. Who knows? Maybe I'll keep going.
Ooh.
Who
knows?
But yeah. The funny thing about episode 1 though is that it's the only episode where James Gandolfini hasn't exactly worked out the accent yet, and so he has a slightly different accent in the first episode.
Does he really?
Yeah, like slightly, but it's very funny. It's not as strong on the New Jersey kind of tone or whatever. It's just slightly more generalized, I guess. But yeah, it's not like a huge issue. It's just a funny little like trivia detail, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. It's an interesting observation about the tone as well. Like, because it's been so long since I've watched it now, but like when you watch the whole thing, you sort of, at least I did, like I sort of lose track of like how it's evolving necessarily when there's so many episodes. So it'd be funny to go back and realize, oh wow, the tone was so different here when you go all the way back.
Yeah. Well, the like last seasons, the last like 2 seasons are like visually just very dark as well. And this first episode, everything's like sunny and happy, and it's just, even though it's about depression, it's a lot. It's a lot funner than the earlier seasons. I'll say that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't get it twisted. It's not, it's not always sunny in Philly, Now comes the segment where we hand the show over to you with our question of the show. Last week we asked you, would you be okay with an AI as your child's school teacher? Yeah, so we're diving back into our first discussion, hey? It all comes back around.
I thought
Dr.
I escaped
Luke.
this AI discussion, but...
Yeah, no, you have not. We'll see what happens. Dr. Luke said, no, I don't believe that AI is a suitable substitute to teaching. Teaching is such a social practice that I don't believe it could Oh, sorry, I don't believe it could ever be replicated with AI. As such, any attempt to replicate the impact of human teachers in the classroom would not be effective in socially educating students. Although humanities teachers could probably be replaced with AI bots and no one would know the difference. So, no, I love that, by the way. So, no, I would not be okay with AI teaching my child.
I think Spooky came at this question with a different understanding of to what AI is depicted as in the film, obviously, because he hadn't seen it. So, like, I wonder
Well, yeah, that's a whole other
if it
thing.
was if it was to watch the film and see that the AI is human, like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wonder if how he'd feel about the social aspect of teaching.
Yeah, AI bots is the way you put it. So, is he sort of picturing, like, more like
Modern
robotic
AI,
things?
yeah,
Yeah.
and kind of chat GPT type shit.
He's
Right.
picturing
Like,
HAL
yeah.
2000 or some shit. He's picturing like
Like you
just a
put him up, like you
computer
put him
or
up on the screen,
yeah, maybe. I
as
don't know.
opposed to a physical
It's
thing.
kind of like an
Yeah.
advanced Ed Roller kind of like a thing.
Jeez, please don't say it, roll. I'm cutting that out. And he said,
Speaking about cutting out,
"Wouldn't."
don't mention the name that Andy mentioned in this. Like
Oh,
he
I
only
haven't
drops
read it yet.
he only drops the first name, but still, like we don't need it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, honestly, thank you for that. Yeah, that's good. Andy said, I wouldn't be okay with AI teaching my future children either. But if I had to choose between that and the legendary name redacted um, teacher that we had at school, I'd probably choose the former because it's better than being taught nothing. Please feel free to counter argument my response. Oh, we will. Don't you worry about that, dude. Okay, Jaden, obviously answer the question, but I also want to know how, if the film influenced your thinking at all, or if it does influence your thinking.
No, I just don't think that we should be building robots to replace jobs like that. Um,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
like I think the only like kind of acceptable, but even then I'd be hesitant is like you build robots to replace jobs at a higher risk. Um, I don't know, like fucking underwater welding or some shit. You know, on a fucking oil rig.
Yeah.
Like that's like if you like you know I'm sure some people will be sad that they lose their underwater welding job, but like
Those are high paying jobs,
oh
right?
fuck yeah man
Yeah.
yeah
Yeah.
because they're such high risk. So like you know having a machine to do that to save human life is really valuable, but like to fucking stand in a classroom where you know danger's minimal. Not
Okay.
really
So you're
worth it.
coming at it more from like yeah, I understand that. But how do you feel about like the ethics or like, I guess, the practical nature of the
Ethically,
robot
I'm fine
teaching
with
a
it.
child?
I
Okay.
I think an AI would be pretty apt at teaching,
Yeah. Okay.
especially the way that it's presented in the film. Like, yeah, they'd be fine, but like from a moral kind of job standpoint, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
a robot should clean
Okay.
sewers or fucking you know weld pipes.
But Jan, you understand? Then they're going to start they're going to have their own little like
They're
fucking
the little fucking
protests and
workers
shit.
union. Yeah,
Yeah.
but you
Exactly.
know you're a full venture capitalist. I'm sure you're a decent union buster.
I don't like this narrative that's being painted of me today,
Well, I
guys.
mean, like you paint certain narratives of me that I'm not fond of, and this
Fair
is
enough.
just getting back at you based on discussions that we've had in the past and your standpoint since.
Fair enough. We'll
Mm.
fight off air. Mum and Dad will
Mm.
fight off air. um, Liam, what do you think?
Um, I don't know. Well, it's hard to. It depends, I guess, because AI can be so many different things. The way it's presented in the film, I guess. Yeah, I'd be fine with. I guess the main thing is that they have like limitations and that they're safe enough and they're not because like technically they could possibly have like infinite knowledge, so they could just like connect to the internet, download the brainwashing file and just kind of brainwash the whole class into becoming their little minions or something. So I don't know. As long as they can't do that, it's fine. Teachers can have a vacation in Thailand and New Asia and have fun.
Work the rice farms.
Lose all their job. Yeah, lose their job. Um, yeah. I mean, unsurprisingly to this whole conversation with the film, I'm all for it. But yeah, this does raise some interesting wrinkles to it, I suppose. I didn't think about that idea of like how it would change Because I was thinking about it, right? Like, if you would have an AI, okay, take a synthetic from the film, have it be, learn to be a school teacher, and picture, like, I don't know, any one from Ken Watanabe's base hanging out in a classroom. I'm like, oh yeah, great, sounds great, no problem there. But then it does, like, but those dudes don't have, like, I guess what I'm saying is that the portrayal of them in the film, I admit, almost does have this, like, positive facade to it for me, where, like, I sort of, you guys are bringing up, like, these interesting holes in it that, like, the film doesn't consider, as we talked about. So therefore, I haven't really considered them. But that is, like, in the film, they don't have, like, access to the internet and shit, right? And
No, yeah,
it sort of
I
seem like
don't
they
think
develop
they're
naturally.
not infinite knowledge beings. I think it seems like
It
they are
seems like,
learned.
yes, exactly. But they there's no children. I mean, there were children, but they can't be born. Because Alfie's the first one that's, like, can grow naturally.
Yeah.
Organically, or, the wrong words, but you understand, over time. So yeah, like, the idea of having one that has all this knowledge and, like, the responsibility of that is an interesting tidbit. I mean, it's more than a tidbit; it's pretty important. But I don't know how I feel about that. That's tricky because exactly, you don't want it. It's also like, where does it get its understanding of how to teach from?
Uni.
Because
Making dual masters.
Yes, they go to uni for 3 years.
And then they get a shooting debt. If they're really human, they have to have the proper experience.
Oh my god, that's terrible. But, like, that's the thing. Like, it could download all of the whole uni experience. I mean, it doesn't even have to download it; it probably just has it. So, like, that's obviously it's hilarious. I love the idea of, like, just an AI sitting there and, like, a teacher's course with everyone else. So, like, it's not the lack of knowledge. I understand it could understand everything there is to understand about how it should teach kids or how we'd want it to teach kids. But it's like, would it do that? Would it want to do that? Would it do some weird shit that it thinks better? It thinks, based on all its knowledge, is better for kids in terms of an approach. Like, not even talking about the curriculum or whatever. Like, it can, if it start teaching, it teaches it, algebra too early, then whatever. But I just mean in terms of, like, more what fits you. Sorry, not what Luke brought up in regards to, like, the social element of, like, how you interact with the kids. Like, what if it starts interacting with the kids in a way we just think is, like, super unconventional and bizarre?
It teaches them all sign language and then just goes off that.
Right. So, right. Yeah, like, honestly, like, that's really weird, but, like, it just evolves in this really weird way where it's just like, what are you even doing? It thinks
if
better.
if you send an AI to a Catholic school, to a Christian Brothers school, would its programming be able to, like, would it be able to teach RE?
Starts teaching Zoroastrianism, Judaism,
Scientology,
Buddhism, everything that's not Christianity.
Yeah. No, I think it would get that. Maybe it would disagree with it. At which point,
you get fired.
Or I was going to say, come to the principal's office and get turned off. You know what I mean? It's just like, don't worry, Jan. It's just like turning off a TV.
Well, that's another, sorry to go back to the film, but it never really changes from that, because, like, it maintains the fact that the robots are turned off rather than dying, and, like, it doesn't really remedy it to a satisfying degree for it to be, like, fully, human.
What do you mean? No, yes, it does.
Not really.
Yeah,
like, even when he puts Alfie under, he's like, standby, not off. It's not like he's like.
Yeah, that was his way of saying, "Don't worry, I didn't kill Ken Watanabe."
But he didn't kill Ken Watanabe. Someone else.
Yeah, exactly. He turned him into. He turned him in that, when he said that line. He turned him into standby mode on the hammock, which, by the way, I think it's funny. They all just have buttons on them. But anyway, he turned him into standby mode on the hammock when he was sleeping there.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I thought you were talking about later in the film.
No. So it's like, but in the film, Off is dead.
Yeah, but we see fucking Ken get shot through the chest and he's still alive at the end.
Well, that's why guys. That's why they're clearly superior to us, and they should replace us. Yeah. Don't know what else to say. Anyway, is this conversation over yet?
Yeah, sorry.
Let it die.
I think. Wait, Han, did you say yes or no, Fitzy? I'm sorry. You said yes, but you said yes, but with those concerns that you raised.
I guess so. Well, that's the main question, like whether or not you can control AI, you know, whether they
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Honestly.
I haven't finished looking for the poll film, so I'm just trying to find it.
Well, you got it. You got approximately 30 more seconds.
Yeah,
I don't
I
think I
have
can
to
buy you
set my
much more
mind a
time.
little bit, but I think I'm happy with my choice.
Oh, okay, good. I don't know if I can buy you much more time than that. Anyway, I think I was going to say something else, but now I forgot. So your time's up, Fitzy. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry about that. As always, though, we'd love you to submit your responses, thoughts, and/or reviews for next week's film in the YouTube comment section, the Instagram comment section, or of course, join the Discord server. Hit the link in the description. Okay. This week, the specific question we'll be asking you is, what is your favorite Ethan Hawke film? Let us know. I feel like we have no consistency in whether or not we choose best or favorite in the wording of any question. It's a sort of vibe thing.
There's no really consistent in the answering either, so I mean, like, it doesn't really matter. People
Yeah.
take it how to take it.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair enough. So yeah, let us know what is your favorite Ethan Hawke film and why. I mean, you don't have to say why, but your comment would probably be a bit less interesting, but it's up to you, I guess. Okay, before we go, we have an Instagram poll, nominees to announce. We've got Jaden and Liam going head to head, nominating a film each, and you, the audience, must decide which film we will be reviewing in a fortnight's time. Or more accurately, I won't be here. They're facing each other, and they'll be reviewing the film in a fortnight's time. So, very good. Jaden, what is the film you will be nominating for the poll?
I will be nominating this little 2023 film. Actually, let me double check if Liam's seen it, because if Liam's seen it, then I probably can't fucking nominate it.
Oh, shit.
Let me just check. You can edit this out, yeah, Zach?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, no, he didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm nominating Foe, the little Australian set Saoirse and Paul Mescal film.
I was choosing between the Rocky Horror Picture Show and Gross Point Blank, but Jaden's seen the Rocky Horror Picture Show, so I'll choose Gross Point Blank, which is a John Cusack hitman movie. It's on Disney Plus. It's from 1997. So yeah, this will be a me and Jane and I exclusive episode. So yeah, but
will you
Jaden's
be
going to
editing it,
visually
Zach, or would
enhance
I
himself.
be editing it?
Oh, you're editing it, yeah.
Okay. I just want to show how long you're away for. Yeah.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. I'm sure, add all kinds of filters to your camera, so that'll be fun.
Yep.
Okay, those are your two options. So go to our Instagram page, check out our stories sometime within 24 hours after this episode goes live to cast your vote. Or, if you're worried about missing your window, why don't you just drop us a follow? And then you'll see it anyway. So do that. Follow us on Instagram. Okay, that's it for this week's episode of Cinema Effect. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Fitzy, what are we doing next week?
We're continuing the what is this trilogy called? The
Before
the Times of Day trilogy. The Before trilogy. The Before trilogy. With Before Sunset, but doing it a bit earlier because Zach's not going to be here in 2 weeks. So yeah, this is set 10 years later, 11 years later, something like that. So they meet up again.
We'll see how. I'm very curious. The most thing I'm curious about is the context in which they meet again. You know what I mean?
Did I tell you I saw a screenshot of it that spoiled it?
No.
I don't know. My phone must have been listening to me that would talk about the film, and I saw a screenshot that spoiled one of the conversations. It's kind of a major one.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you can tell us how major it was next week when we do it. Is it still on Netflix? This one? It is, right?
Good question. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure
Netflix
this one wasn't in the last
and
one.
Foxtel.
Netflix and Foxtel. Excellent. All right. So check out Before Sunset. I always said Before Sunrise. I'm never going to get it right. All right. I appreciate Liam and Jane for joining me as always. Have a great rest of your week, everyone, and goodbye.